Hi everybody, I wanted to go over what I'm looking for in this week's assignment. You're going to apply methods learned to color black and white line art images. You can kind of think of this as like a digital coloring book. I want you to try to find an image that is challenging but doable. Okay, so make sure it's detailed and you can really add some nice color. You can make some clean selections, get some highlight and shadow. Now you can use this site, but I didn't really have any luck finding the line art, so I just did Google. Now what's important here is that you make sure to check the copyright. So if I do black and white line art, I can go to Tools. I'm going to want large images, and then usage rights. Here is where it becomes really important. You must make sure these can be reused. If it is not, then you cannot use it. Okay? If you want to even be double sure of yourself, you can take the image, whatever the website is, and copy it and put it as your layer name. Okay? You can get more specific with your searches. Some of these are very childish. Some of these don't have a lot of detail for you to color. So finding a good happy medium. Pick a topic of something that you enjoy. Maybe you love animals or, whatever it is. Okay? Now, just because this doesn't have, it's not a color by number, you can still add details into this without needing each space completely outlined. So I will save image as. Let me cancel that real quick. Call it dog line art. I'm going to copy this. So now we can create new. It's up to you, the dimensions. Just make sure it's big enough for something to work with. I'll do an 8.5 by 11 to start with. And then I can do a file, place embedded. The difference between embedded and linked. Embedded is actually putting it into your Photoshop file. Linked is just kind of referencing it. So right now it's on my desktop. So instead of taking the information and keeping it as part of the file, it's just referencing it. So anytime it sees it, it's saying, hey, look on the desktop for that. So if I were to send this to somebody with it linked, we'd lose that file because it's a new spot. If you open it on your computer, you can't reference my desktop. So we want to do embedded. Let me see, where did I? Desktop. All right. And place. You want to hit enter to have it set. Okay, so now obviously this needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but we do want to keep the line art intact as well. So from here, using your selection tools like we discussed before, you can start making selections. Hit B for your brush. You can pick, whatever color you want to work with. Maybe you want it to be a little bit more golden. Whatever you would like. We can start a new layer. Make sure to always do things in their own layer. You can combine layers, but you can't separate. I mean, you would have to use your selection tools again to separate, so it gets a little bit frustrating. We can use our brackets and start painting. What I generally tend to do is start with base color layers, and then I'll do my highlight and my shadows. Now the great thing with kind of this type of imagery is there isn't a light source in this image, so you can completely define where you want that to be. Don't forget, we can look into window and then brushes here. So you can change the different type of brush you're using. You can download some additional brushes from the internet. I know they do have fur and hair brushes. So if that's something you would like to do, you can let me know and we can talk about it. But basically, you're just going to go into brushes here, and then you can either load your brush, import brushes, and then they will be kind of in their own section here. You can also go into your brush settings. We'll learn about these throughout the weeks, but for right now, the tip shape has to do with the brush that you selected. Shape dynamics. Jitter you can think about as like variation. So take a look at this preview here. If I increase the size jitter, you can see that it's not a smooth stroke because as I'm actually painting, it's changing the size of my brush. Angle jitter, if this were to be a flat brush, it would change the direction that it's facing, but because I have a circular brush, it's not going to look like it changed anything. And roundness is going to change the shape of how round it is. Scattering is how far away from that brush stroke do you want your brush to go. So I'm going to deselect real quick. So as I paint a line now, you can see straight across. If I do scatter, you can see I'm actually getting brush strokes all over the place. When you click on any of these words, you can see they're checked on. So if you don't want them, make sure to actually check them off. You can add some texture to your brushes. Sometimes it's nice to get a little bit of detail. Mainly it's going to change the edge of the brush. Dual brush allows you to put two brushes together, and we'll get into that one a little bit further. Color dynamics, you can take the foreground and background colors. So I've got that brown and that black, and you can see I can change the jitter, so as I paint it's going between that black and brown. Probably not the most commonly used tool just because it's unpredictable. You can't say what you want each stroke to be, but you can see if you're painting it does add some nice texture throughout. So kind of whatever you want to do. I do want you to pay attention to wet edges here. So if you do want to get kind of more of that watercolor look, you can do wet edges. Now we are at 100% opacity and you can see that I can see through, and if I click and let go and click and let go, I'm actually building the paint up. So this is kind of a cool way to paint. I would recommend taking a look at it, seeing what you think with using that. What we can always do is move our line art to the very top when we're done and play around with our blending modes. You'll see if I use darken or multiply that you can see the line work through my painting. So if we go back to normal, see it's completely through, but the darken or multiply, generally I use multiply, but that allows us to see the line art and still see your painting through it. Now you still need to be careful that you're actually painting inside of the lines because this won't cover that up for you. Alright, so let me know if you have any questions and I look forward to seeing your paintings.